Good evening, everyone. This is the February 10th, 2021 meeting of the Auburn Conservation Commission. My name is I'm the chairman of the commission. With me here today is Tom Fowler, vice chairman. So I'm going to confirm that members of the commission are available. And when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Michelle Colross.
Oh, here.
Hi, Michelle. Nice to see you. Nathan Rand.
Here.
Patrick Cunningham.
Here.
Okay, and I do not see either Tony Romney or Allison Holmes. So I'm going to presume that they are tied up. Also in attendance is Building Commissioner Caleb Moody. Good evening, Caleb. This open meeting of the Auburn Conservation Commission is being called to order at approximately 7:01 p.m. This meeting is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the ongoing state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you can find posted with agenda materials for this meeting on the town's website, which is auburnguide.com, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. For this meeting, the Conservation Commission is convening by remote participation for the public only, although some staff are physically located in the Board of Selectmen meeting room and Town Hall. Those town employees are practicing social distancing in accordance with the governor's orders. So for the public to join the meeting remotely by telephone, call 1-408-650-3123 and enter access code 942-845-549. Or the public can join via computer at gotomeeting.com/join/942-845-549. The remote access information has been posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. And please note that this meeting is also being recorded by Auburn Cable Television. So accordingly, those members of the commission, employees, and members of the public who participate, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you, and please take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. With regard to tonight's meeting, all materials have been provided to members of this body are also available on the town's website. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda. I'm now going to turn to the items on our agenda, and we have one public hearing tonight. Before I do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. So I, as chairman, will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, I will go down the line of our commissioners, inviting each by name to provide any comment, question, or motion. Please hold until your name is called. And please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. And then if members wish to engage in discussion with other members, please do so through me, taking care to identify yourself. So after members of the commission have had an opportunity to be heard, I will afford public comment as follows. I will first ask members of the public who wish to speak to identify themselves by their names and addresses only. And once I have a list of public commentators, I will call on each by name and afford 3 minutes for any comments. And then finally, to the extent that we do any voting this evening, each vote taken will be conducted by a roll call vote. So having said that, the first item on the agenda is a 7 p.m. public hearing, EBT Environmental Consultants, Inc., for a request to amend an order of conditions previously issued by us to move a previously approved house in order to add a garage at 8 Commonwealth Avenue in Auburn. Is there a motion open?
Tom, so moved.
Is there a second?
Nathan, I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Nathan. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, it's a vote. Mr. Kravatsky.
Thank you very much, Mr. Garland. Yes.
So please,
You ready for me?
absolutely.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Conservation Commission. We had been in front of you with a plan dated September of 2020. Here we go. September 28, 2020. The applicant now has, and we did receive an order of conditions, the applicant now has a fire, and they were looking for a garage to be added onto the existing permitted house. So on the application, we were in front of you saying if the commission would accept an amendment, an informal discussion that we had with the board. Personally, now this lot would be called 10 Commonwealth because it has been cut off of number 8. The brief letter that I submitted with the request to amend was as per our formal discussion on the 13th of January, requested amend that order. We have, it goes on to say that we would ask to add a 22 by 22 garage, move the house over 22 feet to our east, keep it the same distance from the wetland that it was before, which is 63 feet off the wetland flag 5A. Keep the erosion control barrier at the same distance that it originally was. But this will allow us to get that garage directly when the driveway comes in. They'll drive directly to the driveway. No curve there. And the house would be, again, 22 feet further than the east. There was a question at the last meeting about if there was any fill needed. And I will say that there was a note by the engineer that 1,020 square feet would be required to build the lot up. This was a former gravel pit. And that was the number that was cited by the engineer for Bill. So we're no closer to the bottom of the structure, no closer with the erosion controls. We maintained over 25 feet from the wetland with our proposed work as required in your bylaw. Thank you.
Okay. One question for you, Ms. Kravatsky. By virtue of putting in the garage, are you increasing the amount of fill that's needed, decreasing it, or does it remain the same?
It stays the same according to the engineer. That question was asked, and that's still the cited volume on the revised plan now dated, let's just say January 13th.
Right. Okay. And we have a copy of the revised plan. Okay.
Yes, sir. It's 5 years.
Tom, any questions?
No questions.
Okay. Do any members of the commission have any questions for Mr. Kravatsky regarding this? Okay. Michelle, anything?
I'm just trying to picture it in my head. Hold on a second.
Okay.
Is this a property that we went to go see that it's like it had that steep decline down into the steep decline down in? Is that where all the fill is being brought in? I can't remember.
It is like a ball. That's fair.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So we're just basically you're just pushing the house over. It's not any closer to the wetland.
That's correct.
It's not going to be. That other side isn't affected. So there was no wetlands on that other side that would be affected.
If I could say, this is like a coarse gravel. This was a gravel pit, and so no, there is no wetlands to our east. If that's what you're asking. The wetland is down right. Thank you. It's a red maple swamp at the belly of the valley, which is beyond us in a southern. That would be in the southern direction. In fact, the delineation on the plan, we'll see how it arrives on the left-hand side of this, comes towards where the house is, arcs around, and then arcs back away. way. I flagged more than what was needed for the house to prove that there were no wetlands to the left or right, but they were all to the south. And then arcing away. And somebody's pointing at that wetland line. So there are no more wetlands. It's still part of that old pit to the right of us, or to the right of the stream, which is east. Thank you.
Thanks, Glenn.
Thank you.
Patrick, any questions?
I just remember discussing that some of the fill would be coming from the hillside as you'd be excavating the hillside to the east of the house in the plan. Is it planned to oil or that?
Patrick, you're breaking up a little bit.
Some fill will be coming out of the hillside. You can see the post grading. They're a solid line to the right of the house on your screen, which is east. And then over, there was a blob left behind towards our south. So there's some fill being taken off of that knob that would be directly to the south of the house or down on the lower part of the plant. There still wasn't enough fill as we moved soil around to account for having to build the land up so that the house would be level. If you can see the contour, post contour 95, that's a straight line below the house, and then there's another contour 93. Eventually, we down by the level, there's 80 drops even more. So to build that land up, that 95 contour, build up contour, so that there's a walkout to the rear of the house, and so there was still going to be needed 1,020 square feet of fill to bring the land up because but luckily for this pit, unlike some of the pits I work in, it wasn't taken down low enough to the water table, and that's why that belly is still up with grass, it's up with vegetation, and high enough above the water table down in the 40 minutes in a well that it didn't turn into a well. So yes, we'll be putting fill in the belly of the excavation, but that area is that's right, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Do any other members of the commission have questions for Mr. Kravosky? There being none, is there any public comment with regard to this submittal? Mr. Darsh, we're getting a little bit of feedback. If you could just hold for 1 second.
Sorry.
That's okay. All right. So anyway, Mr. Darsh, you're the adjacent landowner, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So if you would, just repeat your concern, please.
I can outline that I'm saying from some Commonwealth that sort of my property. What would that represent?
If I can,
Please.
thank you for your question. Those are retaining walls, and in between the two retaining walls, you'll see straight lines where, and then also you move in the street. It's right in front of the house. Move to right there. Those two dark lines, they are retaining walls to hold that upper slope in. We will be surveying that property line prior to any work to ensure that no work occurs on other people's property. That was my concern, sorry. No, we understand it because when we're near somebody's property, we need to. And so that's Summit Engineering and who did the plan. And you can put it in the order of conditions if you choose conservation, but we also know that we can't go on somebody else's property without looking for a major problem. So on these cutoffs, with that, in that location, or all the way around for that matter, but 8, we're not having, we still on 8, I have to talk to the client. But we will survey that there will be guaranteed that no work will occur on the adjacent property. Okay, those are retaining walls, again, if I didn't just to be clear on that. And the two straight center lines in between the two are post graded. they actually tie into, most grades have to tie into existing grades, so the dash line to existing grades, the post grading is that solid line, and they tie into grades, just to keep that slope where it is now, above us, going up to couple of that, those two walls will hold that, and the client will have to, that'll be part of the shallow walls, but the conservation building inspector will look at any walls that are greater than 48 inches in height to ensure that they're sound. Instructions.
Thank you, that was my concern.
Right, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Darsh. Okay, is there any other comments? There being none, is there a motion to close?
I make a motion, we close the public hearing. Tom?
Is there a second?
I second Pat.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, it's a vote. Mr. Grabowski, thank you. I think we will probably act on this evening.
We thank you for your time, the whole commission's time. Thank you, sir. Good day.
You too.
Thank you.
Okay. The next item on our agenda, and this is as other business, is a presentation by Eilish Corey concerning a new land disturbance permit that apparently has been worked out by the Stormwater Committee. Eilish, are you there? I can see you there.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Am I coming through okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. So I'm just going to share my screen with you. Can you see my screen? I just want to make sure that
I think
the PowerPoint presentation is viewable to everybody right now.
I think Caleb is working on it. Oh, you need to share it.
See?
There we go.
Oh, I need to share it. Okay. There we go. Okay, good. So, hello everybody. My name is Eilish Corey. I am the senior civil engineer for the town. I work for the Department of Public Works with Bill Coyle, the town engineer, who's also on the call, in case there's any questions I can't answer. You may remember me. I came on a few weeks ago to talk about a project that the town's doing, a storage service to replace a culvert. But I really wanted to come back to talk to you about the stormwater management program that we have going on, because it's a pretty large priority for the DPW right now, and it's personally something that I have a lot of interest in and that I wanted to make So I'll go through the presentation, and then if you have any comments or questions at the end, I'll just turn it back over to Mike so we can, you can go through one by one again. So the reason I wanted to have this presentation is really twofold. One is to tell you about some of the things that we've been doing in the past year or two in terms of overall stormwater management in Auburn. Separate from what the conservation does and the planning committee does, this is something that we're adding onto it. And the other is to discuss some of the changes that we are planning on making to the existing stormwater bylaw that's in the general bylaws that we're hoping to make at the upcoming meeting. I don't need to tell you, but the reason that this is something that the town is concerned with is because stormwater is right now the #1 leading cause of water quality impairment in New England as a whole. So really the issue is that things that are dumped into the stormwater system are being transported directly into the nearest water body. And over time, that has resulted in the buildup of pollutants in some cases, and in other cases, it's due to more acute poisoning. So we really need to figure out ways to mitigate the pollution levels in our stormwater in order to address the large water quality issues that exist. So this has really become a hot button issue in recent years because of something called the MS4 permit. And you may have heard of this before. It was a very big to-do about 2 years ago when it first came out. It's a permit that's jointly administered by EPA and not DEP, but EPA is kind of the lead on it. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in the presentation. But the permit was initially issued back in 2003, and it works for everybody. The municipalities that are shown highlighted in the figure on the screen are the ones who have to do work under the permit, and that's based on a certain amount of density from the 2010 census. And so you can see in that bottom picture that everywhere there's like a red crosshatch area, that's the population density threshold that Auburn falls under that is applicable to the MS4 permit. So you can see it's most of Auburn. So we kind of consider the whole town to be under the aegis of it. So back in 2003, when this was initially issued, it came out and people did something, but the EPA decided it wasn't enough. So when they renewed the permit in 2016 to become effective in 2018, they made it much, much more prescriptive, much more detailed. And that has resulted in quite a few cost increases as a result, and also greatly increased the amount of administrative and bureaucratic processes that have to go into it. So what the town is currently doing is trying to meet those requirements. So the permit's been effective for the past 2 years, and there are yearly goals that we have to meet and report back to EPA and MassDEP on. But in general, the permit can be split into two different areas of general concern. The first are the minimum control measures. There are 6 of them. And like it says, it's the absolute minimum a municipality has to do in order to meet the requirements of the permit. And so on the next few slides, I'll just kind of go through some of the things that we've been doing to meet these. The other are the total maximum daily loads and impaired water body requirements. So what you have to do to meet these requirements depends on what type of impairments you have in your water body. So for instance, Auburn has water bodies that are impaired for bacteria, chloride, and phosphorus. So we have to do additional work on top of the minimum control measures in order to show that we're trying to take steps to mitigate those particular pollutants in our stormwater. So some of the things that we've been doing in the past 2 years are kind of highlighted here, and I'll just go over each one briefly. The first is an educational program, and that's supposed to be targeted at residents, business owners, industries in Auburn, and show ways that they can help reduce pollution in stormwater. So on a somewhat monthly basis, we issue a public education message, usually on our Facebook, that talks about some topic that's usually relevant to the weather. So like for instance, in the fall, we put out an education message about leaf cleanup, which can reduce phosphorus loads. And we get a lot of that material from an overall acre called Massachusetts, and we're also active members in the CMRSWC, which is a section of approximately 30 municipalities in central Massachusetts. And the intention of this group is to kind of come together and find cost-saving measures, for meeting the requirements of the permit. The second is public participation. So we're looking for ways to engage the public on the issue of stormwater management. And a great way that we did that prior to the coronavirus was to do a spring cleanup. So
unmuted.
Hopefully, once the pandemic's under control, we can start easing back into that. The other is to create a website on auburnguide.com that focuses on stormwater. And it would be publication materials as well as any of the other documents that we are creating under the MS4 permit. Next is the detection, discharge, and detection analysis program. And the point of this minimum control measure is to really find non-stormwater discharges that are going into stormwater infrastructure. And so that usually takes one of two forms. Sometimes it's dumping. So you saw on a previous slide, there was paint that was showing up on catch basin rate. So sometimes residents don't realize that when there's water getting into catch basin, it's going out into your water body. And then the other is direct connections. So unfortunately, sometimes people have actual connections from sanitary sources in their house connected into the drainage infrastructure. And a somewhat common example that you see of that is someone who might have like a washing machine discharging out to a nearby catch basin on the street. So the point of this program is to really identify and remove discharges, and that involves quite a lot of field work that we started implementing this summer and will be continuing that over the next 10 years or so. Then the last one that's on this slide is good housekeeping, and that mainly has to do with the maintenance practices that the town is currently implementing. So we're trying to look at ways that we can make our drainage maintenance more efficient, ways that we can report it better, so that we can identify areas where it's not working and adjust accordingly. And also increase the amount we do. So things like sweeping, doing additional street sweeping and catch basin cleaning. So that's a lot of what we've been doing. But the two minimum control measures that I wanted to talk to you about that are particularly interest right now is the construction site stormwater runoff control and the stormwater management in development and redevelopment. So essentially pre-development and post-development. That's what those two really stand for. And this is where it becomes evident that EPA was the author of this permit and not DEP. And the result of that is that the Impaired permit has requirements in it that are very similar to the Massachusetts stormwater handbook, the 10 standards that you would traditionally see being included in a drainage report. The problem is that there's a few differences in them that are going to cause a little bit of confusion potentially down the line. So I tried to outline some of them on this slide here, and to just kind of give you an idea of what we're looking at. But the number thing is the threshold for review. So right now, towns are required to have some sort of stormwater regulations where it impacts resource areas and buffer zones. And that's where the Conservation Commission comes in. You know, you're the ones who review and regulate that. But the MS4 permit is saying that we have to have some sort of stormwater regulation for projects that are greater than 1 acre, essentially. And that has to be done whether or not the project is anywhere near wetlands. So that's going to increase the amount of developers who have to go through this stormwater permitting process. The other businesses are site inspections. So I think right now the conservation just kind of uses their own discretion to do inspections during construction, after construction. But the MS4 permit requires, I believe 3 or 4 inspections per project that need to be documented. So that's going to increase the amount of labor that the town has to put towards ensuring compliance. Additionally, there are the water quality removal permits, which are interesting. So right now, the Mass DEP Stormwater Handbook requires that developers typically treat the first ½ inch of runoff that comes off the site unless you're a higher land use. And the total suspended solid percentage removal rate is 80%. So now EPA is saying if you are new development, you can meet a minimum water quality volume of 1 inch, and if you're a redevelopment, you have to meet 0.8 inches. So, and also your TSS removal rate is going up to 90%. So that's going to result in a much higher water quality volume that developers have to meet, as well as potentially having to include some additional pre-treatment devices in order to meet that 90% removal rate. In addition to that, in areas where we do have impairments that bacteria, phosphorus, and chloride that I mentioned, the developer is required to use BMPs that specifically target those pollutants. So, you can't just throw whatever you think is going to be the cheapest or what works on the site. You actually have to think a little bit about what is going to be treated and what the efficacy of that treatment is going to look like. The good thing is that the rest of the performance standards, things like controlling heat rates of runoff, having an O&M plan, all the rest of that is in conformance with the Massachusetts Stormwater Handbook. Really those water quality targets that differ significantly. In addition to that, we're going to go over that with things that need to be submitted. So that includes as-built plans, the O&M plan I mentioned, a long-term control plan. So to meet all these new requirements, the town has been working on making changes to the existing stormwater bylaw. And this is being done through our stormwater committee, which was an existing group I'm not quite sure, I've only been here for a year, but I know it was existing when I came here and it's been in operation for a while. So we actually have an existing stormwater bylaw that requires a land disturbance permit. The problem is that rules and regulations which really lay out how the permit, the standards to which the design needs to be made, how the permit operates, are never developed. So our intention is to bring this bylaw up to modern standards and also start enforcement of it as soon as we're able to. And that is a requirement to a town meeting, so there will be a little bit of changes in language. But we aren't anticipating that there will be any major changes to the bylaw itself. A lot of those major changes are going to be made in the rules and regulations, which is going to be a separate document that developers go to when they're looking to apply for this limited permit. And I'm also working on coming up with, I guess you would call them supplemental guides, because the permitting process is very confusing. We all know that. So we're trying to figure out a way to make it a little less confusing for everybody. So I say that, and it was confusing text on the screen, but this is kind of what we're working towards. And I know you're probably wondering, why do we need an additional permit on top of all of this? And it's really to address those changes that MS4 made. And we are not alone in making these changes. Basically, every single municipality who is under the MS4 permit is doing something similar right now if they don't already have something in place. And so one great thing about being a member of the Massachusetts Stormwater Coalition is that we're able to really talk to each other and get ideas for how other communities are making it work, so that we're all implementing the same requirements at the same time. Yes, that makes sense. So what's on the screen right now is kind of our draft step-by-step of how this work will be implemented. For the most part, it would be going through the Department of Public Works, and then we would also kind of work with the TILIS group to ensure compliance and any other record-keeping or coordination we would need to do with the Conservation Commission. With the city division, because there's a lot of overlap between what this is and what needs to be done. So like I said, coordination. So we have developed a draft version of the rules and regulations, and to do that, we started with a template that was made available from our Stormwater Coalition, and then also tried to cross-reference it with the wetland bylaws that you have and any other regulations that the town has in regards to stormwater. But what we're looking for your help in the future with is to really help us iron out any lists. Because this is a new permit, it's very closely related to the permit that Conservation is issuing right now. And I think it is going to be a little confusing for applicants who are kind of like, well, why do I have to go to a stormwater permit when I already have permission from Conservation Commission? I think that's going to be a large question that is going to need some education. And then there's also the overlapping activities. So when the land disturbance permit comes in, it is going to be reviewed in terms of the drainage design, very similar to what you were doing right now before you issue an order of condition. There's also going to be site inspections. Again, something we would both be doing. If there's any enforcement actions that need to be taken, we want to make sure that we're on the same page with what needs to be done. Ensuring that any documents that are submitted are going to everyone, and we don't want them to be just at Berlin Service Permit or just at Conservation Commission. We want to make sure everybody has the same. And as part of this permit, we are also going to require that an annual certificate ensuring long-term ESP compliance, maintenance compliance is being done. And I think that's something the conservation will be interested in. So I just want to make sure that we're sharing that information unmuted. So this was a lot of information, and I know I'm just throwing it at you. So I really want this presentation to be sort of the first step in starting the enforcement of this new permit. I can always come back to a future conservation meeting if you need some time to digest everything I just said, or you can always contact me directly at the information, at the contact information that's shown here. And then the one other thing I would like to mention is that the Stormwater Committee does currently have an open position, and in the existing bylaw, it is designated for an agent of the Conservation Commission. So if you are interested and willing to come to meetings during the daytime, it would be great if somebody from the conservation was available to start attending those meetings, and that way you could have direct input in the way the permit is currently being developed and enforced in the future. So thank you very much, and I'll turn it back over to Mike.
Well, thank you. Thank you. You're right. That is a lot to take in. I mean, it seems to me, and again, I think this is it's a noble effort because we have to improve water quality in the town, as you indicated. I see obviously an expanded role for the commission in terms of dealing with the new permits, and I'm also thinking that peer review may become even more important. So in the past, and Bill will attest to this, for large projects that we've had, and we haven't had really any significant large projects in a while, we have relied on peer review. I think given the technical nature of the new permitting process, peer review is going to be crucial. So luckily we have the budget to hire consultants, and we also make applicants pay for it too. So that's something to consider. And then in terms of enforcement, if someone is not in compliance, that I think that's going to be an interesting issue too, because we do have enforcement authority. Although I think it's interesting that you mentioned that the permit is sort of a combined DEP-EPA effort. So I don't know. I mean, I presume that in terms of enforcement, if we are unable or unsuccessful in terms of enforcement activities, I would imagine that DEP would get involved. But I suppose they're going to have to figure out what their role is going to be as well, right?
Yes, and I will say that this permit cost some conversation at DEP when it was issued. I think they were a little upset that EPA hadn't consulted them more closely about how the two agencies would work together. So I think if a situation like that does come up in the future, it will be interesting to see how it's handled, because I don't think that DEP or EPA really knows the answer to how that's going to work yet.
Well, I mean, I think in terms of rulemaking, that could take a while. Do you have a projected deadline in terms of issuing the permit? Are we talking about something that you hope to implement by the end of the year or sooner?
Sooner. So we have a deadline of June 30th, 2021 in order to get this permit process in place.
Do you think you can meet your deadline?
I think as long as everything goes smoothly at town meeting to get the bylaw updated done, then it really shouldn't be an issue. And even if it does, if you know, for some unknown reason it does become an issue, I think that we can make some balancing work that would meet the bare minimum requirements of the permit using the existing bylaw, but ideally we would want to see those changes made at town meeting.
It also occurs to me that to the extent that the Conservation Commission is going to be primarily responsible for administering the permits, we may also need to make changes to our bylaws and our regulations too.
It's very possible, and that's the reason I wanted to really start this conversation. If you want, the Water Committee is still working on the draft of the rules and regulations, but if you reach out to me separately, I can start sending you drafts of what we have so far, and you can identify where you can make changes before it is promulgated, or identify areas where you think you might have to make changes as well.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent idea, Eilish, and so I'm sure we'll be in touch. So I want to thank you. Does any member of the commission have any comment?
Mr. Chairman, if I could briefly.
Yes, Mr. Quayle.
I'd like to thank Eilish for her wonderful presentation. She does a wonderful job with the stormwater work that she's done this past year. She's actually not been with us now, I think, for a year. And we're extremely lucky and fortunate to have her with the experience that she's gained in her previous work and her consultant life. What I'd like to add, too, is that as we move forward in the DPW budget, there's an additional engineer that was added that we're going to be looking to fill that position to help us assist with the review process once this is up and running, because we recognize that there's going to be a lot more hands that will be responsible for reviewing. Certainly the larger scale major development projects would still probably go up for peer review, but some of the projects that are going to trigger the threshold that may be smaller in nature, single family house projects that might trigger the threshold, we would be reviewing in-house. And then also hopefully some of the construction inspections as well, and coordinating with the building department on their end, some of the inspections that maybe they could do and we could share. So we're hoping with the additional engineer, in addition to Eilish, that we're going to be able to handle a significant amount of the additional workload. Certainly is going to be a lot of coordination with the Conservation Commission to make sure that we're all looking at the same type of mitigation measures that are required. And that's why I think we felt, Eilish and I, it was important to reach out to you, to keep you involved. This is something that we started looking at years ago, but quite frankly, the permit was delayed for many years. I believe it was held up in court from appeals. So it is now something that we are required to comply with. So I remember back when I first came here, 12 years ago, we were looking at this, and we looked at a stormwater bylaw that was passed, but the regulations were never passed.
Right.
And because we were at a point where things have been delayed, but now at this point we have to move forward. And so, as I mentioned, by June of this year, we're hoping to have the rules and regulations in place. So we'll be presenting, Eilish will be presenting before the other boards and probably the BOS, Board of Selectmen, and then look to go before town meeting to modify the current bylaws within the bylaw. But thank you for having us. I appreciate it, and I'm sure Eilish or myself will be happy to answer any questions that the commission may have.
All right, thank you. One observation I have is that it seems likely that the new permit is going to be required for almost everything that's filed with us. Any either new construction.
Okay, could you repeat that? You broke up a little bit at the end.
Sure. My observation was that it seems like the new permit, the new stormwater permit, I could see it being required for basically any new project that's being submitted to us for review. Maybe and at this point, and Bill will attest to this too, the scope of our work has really changed over the last decade. At one point, 10 years ago, maybe when Bill was coming on, we still had, fairly large subdivision projects that were coming before us. We've been getting smaller ones, but most of them are primarily single-family homes, resource area delineations, that sort of thing. I would say, though, that to the extent that someone is either, renovation of projects, replacement of septic systems, new home construction, you name it, it seems like this new permit is going to be required for those types of projects.
Sure. A lot of them will require a permit, and we're still working on some of the thresholds, what would require a permit. So some of the small projects that you see, it's all had on a small garage within the buffer zone that may not fall under our service permit requirements. I think those are some of the things we're still working on the exact thresholds. But there may be small projects that you may see that we may not get involved with. But I think that's something we're still working on.
I understand.
Eileen, is that correct? Do you want to add to that?
I'm sorry, I think it's my connection. I missed the very last part of what you said.
So I was just indicating that there may be some small projects that may not trigger our threshold that may still go before conservation that we may not get involved with. So there may be some projects that won't overlap, but a significant number will. And then projects that within the buffer zone wouldn't go before conservation, we're still going to review because the impervious area were on the threshold, even though they're not LLS, we would still review those.
Yes. So we, like Phil said, we are still discussing the actual thresholds. It looks like right now what our nearby communities are using is 5,000 square feet of additional impervious area. So that could be a residential house, but probably not like a smaller shed or garage.
Okay. Are there any questions from members of the commission for either Eilish or for Bill?
This is Michelle. I don't have any, no.
Okay. There being none, I want to thank you for your presentation. I think it meets a real need in the community, and we look forward to working with you and implementing the permit and help. And we would be happy to assist you in developing the regulations as well. So we will be in touch.
All right, great. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
You too. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Eilish. Thank you. The next item on our agenda in further business is 43 Sword Street. And my understanding is that there is an issue, and maybe you can enlighten us on what was submitted to us, but there is, I think, an issue concerning trees that may have fallen in a wetland area, or is there an issue with some sort of runoff? Do you want to jump in?
Yeah, so what I was told when they first called was that they had trees that had fallen in a culvert, which was on their property in the back, and it was causing flooding onto their parking area.
Okay.
So I had explained to him that he needed to call DPW and talk to Bill. And from what he told Bill was that they did have trees that had fallen, and yet it had caused some issues, but they had runoff that had come into their parking lot, and they wanted to go into the back and pull out trees. I asked for pictures, and this is what he gave me.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not real easy to see because of the snowfall we've had. What's the name of the gentleman that you spoke with? Do you recall?
not remember his last name. I did send him an agenda for tonight to be here to talk about this, and it doesn't look like he may not be here.
I do not see that he is.
That red line is, that red line is supposed to indicate where the runoff is.
Okay. So,
Property.
so is it Gene's position that that the trees are town property and that the town is responsible for removing them?
No, he knows that the trees are on his property, and the culvert is on his property. I was just told that since it was a culvert, that it was DPW.
Okay, so perhaps maybe the property owner is looking for us to provide some guidance in terms of what he needs to file with us in order to remove the trees. Is that possible?
Yeah, that's possible.
Okay. It would have been nice if he had joined us this evening. Any comments, commissioners, on this? All right. So, Ginger, if I'd like to get, do you have an email for this gentleman?
Yes, I do. I can send it to you in the morning.
All right, why don't you do that? Send it to me, and then I can send him a message, and perhaps we can get some clarity on this. Okay?
Okay, sounds good.
Great, thank you very much. The next item on our agenda is a packet of rather neat stuff from Mass Autobahn. It's an information packet that's actually really interesting. It's also really well done. It's very visual. And so I would just encourage the commissioners to take a look at it. This actually might be something that we could post to our website too, because I think it's really good information. And it would give, I think, people in our community a sense of just how important natural resources are throughout the state, not only in Auburn, but also, on the coastline, in the forests, and in other areas. And so I invite members of the commission to take a look at this, and if you think it's worthy of being added to our site on the town website, I would encourage you to let me know what your thoughts are, because I think it is really worthwhile to do that. The next item is for 498 Rochdale Street. I had a conversation with Robert Coyle today. It's my understanding that an enforcement effort is being undertaken. I believe there may be a hearing this Friday on some of the fines that have been issued to the property owners at 498 Rochdale Street. I do hope to have a conversation with town council, who's Robert Hennigan, tomorrow concerning what is actually planned, if anything, for this Friday. And once I've had an opportunity to speak to Attorney Hennigan, I will update members of the commission on what is going on. I'm encouraged by the fact that although unfortunately the property owner has not taken any affirmative steps to either pay the fines or to remediate the property in the way they were ordered to do so, I'm encouraged that the town is still following up on the enforcement activity, and I think ultimately there will be a positive outcome as a result. With respect to tree cutting, the weather has interfered in our ability to go and check this out. But so I'm going to carry it on the agenda, or we should carry it on the agenda. But we will, when the weather improves, go out there and investigate the complaints. With respect to meeting minutes, I had an opportunity to review the meeting minutes for both August 12 and August 26th. I want to give kudos to Ms. Buto for doing them, because they look good to me. I wondered if any members of the commission have any additions, subtractions, etc. to the meeting minutes for August 12th.
That was great to me too.
If no one has any changes to the meeting minutes for August 12th, is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
Make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of August 12th and August 26th, 2020, as submitted.
Can we do them one at a time?
Sure.
Okay, so there's a motion on the floor to approve the meeting minutes for August 12th. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 I'll abstain that I was not present at the meeting.
Okay, one abstention from Nathan. And then with respect to the meeting minutes for, and the motion carries. With respect to the meeting minutes for August 26th, again, I reviewed the meeting minutes. They are concise. They accurately reflect what happened at that meeting. I have no changes. Does anyone else have any changes, subtractions, et cetera, for the meeting minutes of August 26th? If there are none, then is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes for August 26th?
So moved, Tom.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second that, Michelle Colorado.
Thank you, Michelle. If there's no discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
As I was not at the meeting.
Okay, very good. All right, the motion carries. It's a vote. All right, is there any new business? If there is no new, well, I take that back. I did this the last time. I have to watch myself. We closed the public hearing for the amendment to the order of conditions for what is now being called 10 Commonwealth Avenue. In terms of what we can do, we've already issued an order of conditions for the property. The substantial changes are shown on the plan that was submitted by Mr. Grabowski. My thought is that we can amend the order of conditions by substituting the new plan that he provided to us, or that was provided to us. Looking to see if, and it's dated January. I think it's January 13th of 2021. It's kind of small. It's in the lower right-hand corner. Mm-hmm. Is it January 13th?
January 13th.
Yeah, I'm going to need to get a magnifying glass.
It does say number 8 on here, and we could just cross it out and put the number 10, I guess.
Okay, right. So, if the only substantive change is to replace the prior plan with the plan of January 13th of 2021, is there a motion?
Move to change the order of conditions from September to the new plan dated January 13th, 2021.
Okay, so your motion is to amend the order of conditions to incorporate by reference, or actually substitute the plan of January 13th of 2021 for the prior plan?
That's exactly what I meant.
I knew it, Michelle. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, it's a vote. Now, if there's no new business, is there a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn this meeting. Tom?
Is there a second?
I'll second that, Michelle.
Thank you, Michelle. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, it's a vote. It's unanimous. What a surprise. Our next meeting will be on February 24th. I wish you and yours safe journeys, safe travels. Be healthy, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Good night.